And welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Welcome to Opinion Court. Please do get in touch with us. Our SMS line 22422. You could reach out to us on @CitizenTV Kenya. That is our Twitter handle. Find us on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. Please use the hashtag Opinion Court. We're going to do an audit on security in the country. As we mentioned in our intro in the bulletin, given the hard times, what has taken place in Garissa, it may be difficult to do a proper audit of the government 1 year on today, just 1 week after this terrible incident. Nonetheless, we'll press on and figure out how far has this country come in regards to security. My guests in studio, to my immediate right, URP Senator Kipchumba Murkomen. In the middle, our resident political analyst, Edward Kisiangani, and ODM Chair, John Mbadi. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the program. Thank you for coming in. I want to start with the controversial question of the police recruitment exercise. The president ordered immediate training that had been halted by the court. That is action that has come under condemnation. Murkomen, let me start with you. Shouldn't the president be the very first individual in the country to uphold the rule of law?
You know, this is the problem the president finds himself. He finds himself in the midst of demand by the public for security, and on the other side, a demand to obey a particular provision of the law. Now, there are two evils here. One will lead to loss of life. The other will lead to, establishment of rule of law for a long period of time and so forth. If you are the president in that situation, you have a situation where you have a shortage of policemen. You know, one of the things that has never been attributed to this government is the fact that in the first year we recruited 7,000 policemen. In the second year, it was going to be 10,000. From June last year, we are now 2 or 3 months towards another June, 1 year. There is a debate between a commission and the courts are taking their... You know, what makes a court take more than even 2 weeks to make a decision whether you're going to hire people to go and save lives? Let me give you the Garissa situation, for example. When the intelligence report was shared, and this is the information we have to the government, because it was not very clear, they sent 2 policemen to go to Garissa to go and reinforce. The other 2 were there to make it 4 to guard the university. How many more would we have sent if we had the 10,000 working?
Well, they would still have been in training.
No, I'm just saying, if we had them even trained 4 years ago in the government that Mbadi served, if they had already hired those 10,000 policemen, it would have saved many lives. So the point we are trying to say is that the president is acting out of necessity for human life. He understands the situation that he is in, that perhaps he should have continued waiting for the courts indefinitely, but the Kenyan people are saying, Mr. President, we don't care. We just want our men on the ground and women on the ground to secure the republic. So we understand from a theoretical legal perspective, it is nice to make those plausible arguments. But when you lose life, when you are at war, like we had as a country, that debate ceases from being theoretical, it becomes practical.
Buddy.
My concern is that, well, we all agree that what happened in Garissa, and maybe we should have started from there, was really unfortunate and needed some quick reaction. But my concern is the way the president reacts when faced with a crisis like we had in Garissa. Always, I don't know why the president feels that the only way to react to such situations is by violating the provisions of the law. We saw it when we were told that the only problem that we had in this country, why we were facing insecurity, was because we had bad laws. And we were pushed to pass a law with very bad provisions, which the court since have found some of the provisions of that law to be unconstitutional. To tell me that and this is information from government, that the people who massacred our children in Garissa, the students in Garissa, the young, upcoming intellectuals, were just 4 members of the Al-Shabaab militia group, that you needed so many thousands of police officers in Garissa University to stop 4 armed gunmen from attacking an institution of higher learning, I think is overstretching our imagination too far. To tell me that because we didn't have enough police officers, that is why it took almost a whole day to flush out just 4 members of the Al-Shabaab from the university hostels, to me again is trying to imagine that Kenyans don't think.
Although I suppose the broader assumption, is that generally, because the country has witnessed varied incidents of insecurity, that we needed more men on the ground. Nonetheless, I appreciate what you're saying. I would like you to respond to what the senator has said regarding the fact that the courts are taking too much time to determine critical issues.
I cannot deny that probably the courts are taking too long, but who stopped the government from starting the recruitment afresh? We have been complaining that one of the reasons why the police, the Al-Shabaab is infiltrating these countries as a result of corruption. And that corruption stems from the security organs. And it has been since determined, even by some government organs, that the last recruitment of police officers, there was massive corruption. By the president assuming that and ordering the people who are a product of corruption to report for training, and then expecting the same to protect our borders, the same people who are a product of corruption, is overstretching the imagination.
Can I correct you there? Just a correction.
As I conclude, I think and I believe that the president could have acted differently on this matter. The solution to me is not the 10,000.
What would the solution have been for you?
The solution would have been, first, understand why these members of Al-Shabaab keep on attacking our country everywhere. It is not the number of police officers. I would tell you for a fact. Because the number of police officers we have in Garissa, how many are they? Let's remove the university from it. The response should have come even from other police barracks in the or other security installations in Garissa region. You can't tell me that there were only 2 police officers in the entire.
So that was a knee-jerk reaction for you.
Yes.
Prof.
You know, listening to the 2 gentlemen who are privileged, more privileged than myself to be in Parliament, you just know that there's a big problem that needs to be sorted out. First, beginning with the Senator Murkomen, he's lost. He's lost, and I think he should also go and tell his bosses they are lost. They don't understand what the public is. The public is not saying that you solve the security problem by violating the constitution they passed. They're just saying fix the security problem. And so, secondly, if I were you, I would also go and tell your bosses, including the president, to disband the legal team that is around him. This constitution is not even challengeable in the court of law. And you know you are a lawyer. He has violated Article 3 of the Constitution, where he is supposed to personally to defend the Constitution. He has violated Article 10, which talks about the national values. He has also violated Article 73, which talks about integrity and leadership. We have a group here which recruited policemen and in a corrupt way. You are fighting corruption, then you admit the same corruptly elected people back into the barracks, and they know very well that the public have no confidence. You don't respect the people, because that is what is in Article 10. But I want also to say, Anne, that when you look at the chapter on the judiciary, which is Article 159 and 160, it says that first, the power of the judiciary is derived from the people, not the president. And you cannot challenge that power. Now, if you look at the situation that has happened after the president spoke, in 2007, Anne, we had a group of people, where Mbadi belonged, in fact, who refused to accept the results of the election. They refused to go to court. And then, in 2013, we said, we have a new constitution now, we shall respect court decisions. And because of court decisions being respected, when the courts declared our president the winner, people respected this as a move. Now, if the head of state can violate the constitution by disregarding what the courts have passed, what about me tomorrow as an ordinary citizen who will defy the court? What justification will you be having to remove me, to think about me as a person who does not respect the constitution when the chief executive has done that? But what is critical, Anne, is this. Suppose, because when you talk about the delays in the courts, that is an administrative matter. But the fact is that the Court of Appeal ruled that this thing was illegal. So the president should have seen the light early and started the recruitment. Instead, the organs of government used government resources, and they used government resources, organs of government used to appeal. Now suppose in May, the same court says, yes, we uphold the decision of the High Court, what will government do?
All right.
Just let me say this. The president recognizes the extraordinary measure he took. And he said very clearly that I take personal responsibility for that. And he knows what he means. It means that anyone who wants to remove the president from office as a result of that decision should go ahead and do it. Of course, the president cannot be prosecuted when he's in office. But also, let's put it this way, that, you know, this country's at war. These stories you have heard, all these other stories, including the one Professor is saying, are stories that are said by people who are living in comfort. If you speak,
they are not stories, they are the Constitution. We are talking about the Constitution, Senator.
Can I complete?
You cannot talk about the Constitution as stories.
Can I complete?
They are not stories.
These arguments you had, let me use it argument. It sounds better from Professor.
Be diplomatic.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
These arguments you've had, if you spoke to the people, if you went, I was yesterday in Chiromo, if you spoke to the families of the people who were affected in Garissa, they were even saying the president should have hired those people like yesterday. You know, the point we are talking about here is also an indictment of the judiciary. That when you have such extraordinary, in any case, the first complaint was that about 10% were hired using a corrupted process, which means 90% were correct. The court should have gone ahead to make the determination, expedite the process, because we are in America. Let me tell you that people are being held in Guantanamo Bay without any provided mechanism and procedures on human rights in the U.S. But because they understand that they are living in extraordinary times, they are acting, even the courts are in consonance with the executive because they want to save their country. What is lacking in this country? What is lacking in this country?
And
we have moved. I listened to you, Prof. I took my time.
Okay.
What's lacking in this country is actually a process where public interest is put ahead of egos of whatever institution, whether it's parliament, executive, or legislature, where people are debating. And let me come to my last proposal on that.
Yes, please.
Personally, I have different views, in fact, on hiring policemen. For me, I believe that these stories about policemen should not, had a degree, this one should go.
Let's actually talk about that, because part of the criticism is that the Al-Shabaab, our enemies, are recruiting none less than law graduates, while we are going for deep lanes.
That's not true. The shifters that are the kit rustlers who are destroying this country in most parts of the areas of this country have no single degree. Most of the Al-Shabaab fighters have no single degree. In fact, it's just a few of them now that we have got surprised that even a lawyer was there. But the point I'm trying to say is that those who are going to be hired to go to be the frontmen on the ground, for me, what should be concerned ourselves is patriotism and sacrifice and commitment. But that should be actually the values that drive us to hire those people. I'm not going to accept that policemen should be C+, B+, whatever.
Fair enough. Let's allow Mbadi to say it.
He might donate a second to me.
It's his first time on the show. Let's give him some airtime.
I'll be very brief. First of all, I would like to urge my friend Mukomen, and he knows this, that our constitution provides for all those what you call extraordinary circumstances. If the president is convinced that there is a big problem, we are in a state of emergency or whatever it is, there is nothing that stops the president from invoking the provisions of the constitution and the law to address that. We know this country has a supreme law, and we all live with it, but it cannot be at the discretion of the president. Remember, even during the times of Kanu, they used to give excuses of we are under extraordinary circumstances, and therefore we have to suspend some of the provisions of the law. People were being detained for no reason. They gave all kinds of arguments.
Are you talking about something like the state declaring a state of emergency? What specifically are you referring to in the Constitution?
What I'm saying is, if the president feels we are at war, there is a way of dealing with war in this country. The president can declare war. If we are at war, the president can declare war, then in which case we know as a country we are at war. But we cannot use the excuse of being at war for just incompetence of handling insecurity situation. How many wars will we be fighting? If today it is in Garissa, tomorrow there is Kapedo, another day it is in Peketoni, we will be declaring war every month. If I give you the chronology of events, since President Uhuru Kenyatta came to power, we have had attacks in this country almost every month. In fact, we've had 18 attacks from Al-Shabaab and other related groups. So will we be declaring war every month?
Well, it couldn't be every month because he's been in office for 24 months and you're talking about 18.
But 18 is close to 24.
It's about half.
It's very close to 24.
Fair enough.
You see, Mheshimiwa, the point that you are saying, if you look at the articles of the Constitution with regard to the judiciary, the executive, they will give you a direction on how a matter like this one can be handled. Parliament should be involved in certain things, and certain laws can be passed actually to do certain things. But what I wanted to do, because that is a long story, and I have read the Constitution upside down, inside out, so I know what I'm talking about.
Upside down is correct.
Yes. And the right way around.
So what I wanted to say is this. Already, Honorable Murkomen does not want to listen. This is actually the general mood, I think, in this government. They don't want to listen to what we are telling them. The president's reaction that if we had 10,000 people, that is the reason why we don't have security, is not correct. And if you look at the way wars have been fought, the First World War and the Second World War, most of those countries such as Russia, China, and even Germany and France kept very huge armies. But the way war is now being fought is fought on the level of technology. 3 people alone can handle a job that could be done by 100,000 people, troops, in 1945. So therefore, to talk about numbers, and not just numbers, but numbers that have been corruptly recruited, and still say you are fighting corruption is not correct. And this is something I say with humility and with respect to our president. He hasn't done very well. He has violated the Constitution.
Fair enough. I want to move on, still on security, to another big story that took place this week, which was the closing of varied hawalas, the Eastleigh business community, which has 9 out of the 13 hawalas that have had their accounts frozen, has basically said that this is blanket punishment by the government, that it's not based on any investigations. Mbari, let me start with you. Your thoughts?
First of all, I don't have the privilege of having the information that the government has. But if at all the government has clear, concrete information that some of these organizations and individuals have been involved in financing and promoting the activities of Al-Shabaab, then the government should take action, and should have taken that action yesterday. My only concern is it has just been about 3-4 days since this Garissa event, this Garissa unfortunate event took place. And we are now seeing action from the government, closing all these hawalas and all that. Something tells me that this information has been available to the government for a long time. Why did they have to wait for 148 young Kenyans' lives to be lost to take such action? Who was benefiting from this this fraud on Kenyan people? And I want to say that the other concern that I have is also that the government has previously also used the cases of insecurity in northeastern Nairobi, Eastleigh area, and even Mombasa to persecute even innocent members of the Somali community, the Kenyan Somali community who are in Kenya. Therefore, I would only hope that if whatever action the government is taking, that they are taking it in a honest and transparent manner, that those who are suspected, and really, truly there is a genuine concern, a reason to suspect them, are the victims, and not the other innocent Kenyans who probably have nothing to do with Al-Shabaab.
Senator, the Inspector General has asked the affected entities to explain why they should not be blacklisted for taking part in or aiding, alleged terror activities. What happened to innocent until proven guilty? The burden of proof should be on the government to say that for these reasons, then you should be shut down, not on the entities to say for these reasons we should remain open.
I think, just like my Honorable colleague has said, it's important that certain extraordinary measures are taken. And we are dealing with people who are handling money that go to territories like Somalia and other places. And if there is, and we are saying this is intelligence information, if it is suspected that it could be even that those organizations are not aware that the people who are transacting this money are actually in Al-Shabaab, but government has information that so-and-so is receiving this money on this other end or sending from this other end knows that they are funding terror. So the institutions themselves are supposed to be conveyor belts of sending money. And some of them, the directors may not have the mainstream, may not have the criminal mind when they are acting what they are doing. So the point they are being asked is to actually cooperate with government in trying to take out those who are corrupt. But also, you know, the reason why this is not happening in Ethiopia, you see, one of the greatest benefits we have in this country is that we have liberalized financial systems and market and institutions. That liberalization has been taken for granted by other people, or actually exploited by other people who want to do shoddy business. That's why you have some countries, like South Africa has more stringent mechanism of sending money than Kenya. You go to Ethiopia, you can't just walk to a bureau and send money because they are really closely controlled. But we don't want to go to that level of Ethiopia and the like.
But we have regulations by the Central Bank of Kenya.
As Parliament, we must have to put a bit more stringent procedures on how money is sent in this country. You go to some bureaus in town, and you know that. You change money and you get away with it. You send money and you get away with it. And I think it's for us from Parliament also to tighten those
laws. I think, Senator Murkomen, on that one, I'll agree with you. And I'll agree with the Honorable Mbadi on the same. And what my concern as we, in this opinion court, is to make sure that we are loyal to the Constitution. And for what the President did, if it came from the executive, to take the steps he took, the question we are asking is, was it constitutional or it wasn't? In this case, it was constitutional. Under Article 132(an), the President can use his executive powers to take decisions such as the one taken. And you cannot put him on the defensive on whether or not these people are guilty or innocent. So we can assume that he has information, especially the executive and the National Security Intelligence, have information which have implicated these people, and anything that can be used, anything that can be found, which can lead us to solve this terrorist problem. If the President is the one involved and is giving us that direction, we should support it.
All right, gentlemen, I want to move to the final part of our conversation as we wind up, which is the controversial statement that came out of ODM. Well, controversial for some, I should say, in as far as wanting the Kenya Defense Forces to pull out of Somalia. Perhaps let me start with you, Mbadi, just to put into context the reasoning of ODM on this matter.
I think we have been misunderstood on this matter. First, we acknowledge and recognize that when we took KDF forces to Somalia, it was in the other regime. And we did that because there was a reason. And the reason was that the Al-Shabaab was taking the war to our doorstep. And actually, we remember that time, the problem at the coast, the coastal strip, and many others. So the decision was made at that time that our forces should go to Somali and fight the Al-Shabaab. Actually, it was to protect our borders. I don't want to go to the merits and demerits of that, because some of us have different positions on that. But the question is, when you go to war, whatever kind of war, you must have an exit strategy. You must have an objective. What did we go to Somalia to achieve? Were we were we to defend our borders and weaken the Al-Shabaab, and to what extent? So what we are asking the government is not to pull out of Somalia tomorrow. What we are saying is, tell us the exit strategy. You cannot be in Somalia forever. You have to come out of it. And even other countries, Murkomen is fond of giving example of America. And I want to follow suit and also give the example of the United States. They pulled out of Afghanistan and even Iraq. I mean, you have to make a conscious decision to get out of war.
I think you're pedaling back a little bit by saying that all you want is an exit date, but nonetheless, I'll indulge it. What to you is a reasonable exit date, given the heightened terror attacks that we see?
For me, where we have reached, out, and I think that is why ODM has come out as saying we get out of Somalia. Where we have reached, we went to Somalia as Operation Linda Inchi. Right now, what we hear, in fact, there is no transparency in the whole thing. What we hear is we are part of AMISOM. We are now not fighting as Kenya. We are there as so why shouldn't we get out of it?
You see, Anna, before Senator Murkomen comes, this is exactly how ODM misses political opportunities. Everybody knows that the frontier for war had been pushed to Nairobi. What we did, our National Defense Forces pushed the frontier to Kismayu. The reason why you have not seen our girls being hijacked, kidnapped like the one you have in Nigeria is because we pushed the frontier. If we had not, and if you say you withdraw and the frontier moves into Kenya, you'll be hearing schoolgirls and boys being kidnapped. None of the people that talk, especially from Honorable Bandit Party, has ever told us whether or not they have communicated with the Al-Shabaab to be assured that if indeed we withdraw, Al-Shabaab will withdraw. You need to understand that the reason why Al-Shabaab
and even if they had is an assurance from a terrorist word to go by.
Yeah, you must understand, Anne, that if you look at the West African region, Cameroon, Nigeria, Niger, and Mali, the Boko Haram, Boko meaning haram, Western education and culture is illegal, it's a haram.
Right.
They are saying that they want to establish a Muslim caliphate in that region.
Right.
Regardless of the boundary of Nigeria and Cameroon and even Mali and Niger. Here in East Africa, they still want to establish a caliphate, whether or not you withdraw. This is not a war which you get politicians, you know, waking up in one morning and saying we withdraw our troops. I think it is rude. It's political rudeness, lack of respect for our troops. The troops must push the frontier there, and then we must remain there. I have always spoken on this point. We can remain there as long as possible until we are sure that nobody wants to put up a caliphate in this region. But why I have said that before I come to the last thing I want to state on that point is this.
Right.
My friend's party loses opportunities because even the other day, there is enough arsenal to deal with the government, and he misses it. You know, his party leader again announced when there was a crackdown on corruption, just the way he did on the troops. He said that, look, he started talking as if he does not want corruption to take place. Instead of saying, this is the agenda we have been pushing now, the president, you are right.
Okay.
So
I don't want to talk too much about political scoring right now.
Our business here is politics. Our business here is politics, and we must also say that he must restructure himself and start addressing issues. He has opportunities he's missing for 2017.
Fair enough.
Let me talk about the troops. We cannot compare ourselves with U.S. and Afghanistan, U.S. and Iraq. You see, Article 2.4 of the UN Charter requires us to take self-defense, and Article 2.4 was drafted at a time where you are talking about border countries. In this situation, we are in a more unique situation because we are dealing with Somalia, which is our border. We cannot, as I agree with the professor, that we cannot withdraw from there until we are sure that Somalia is a country that is able to govern itself. We are not being told by a government in Somalia or an entity that is running any of the federations or the loose federations of Somalia that our presence there makes them to send troops to fight us. These are actually terrorists, and these terrorists are not giving conditions that because, you know, we want to remain in Somalia and so forth. Two, I want to remind also Badi that you see, there are a lot of things that our army are doing that are actually not publicized. There are also many attacks that would have taken place in this country that would have been worse, would have been more terrible if nothing was being done. In fact, the information we have was that now, because of the last law we passed the other day, which creates the command and control center, that exchange of information has improved, and actually that there was information about the attack in Garissa, and now what's remaining is the response should actually be expedited. So we have made
that in itself is an indictment.
I'm just saying we have moved the progress. I mean, we are not saying there were no mistakes made.
Right.
We're just saying we've moved in terms of progress on matters of security since we passed the other law.
Right.
The problem is that there are a number of the provisions of that law that were suspended by the court that actually would have assisted us. Let ask any Kenyan today if they want these characters who have been arrested the other day to be released to the public. Everybody's saying hold them as much much as you want. And that is actually what is provided in that
just
law.
well, they are innocent until proven guilty.
But the support,
let's not go that direction.
Basically what I'm trying to say is that
you
started well, but
let him finish. Let him finish.
You don't have the marking scheme.
I wish you could.
You have no marking scheme.
Let him finish, and we're going to come round to final comments very quickly.
These university
please go to your
academic
point,
theories,
let me rescue my
are
analyst.
different from what we face on the field.
To your final
I'm
point,
just saying that
you have been teaching the university recently.
Yes, that was when I was using theory. Now I'm in practicals. Now the point is that when we must deal with the question of security, we must give maximum support to our troops, and we must create extraordinary. The country must never remain the same as a result of that attack that happened in Garissa. We must do things, as Professor was saying the other minute, upside down. We must change everything to respond to the situation that as a country we are under attack and we want to secure our nation.
And right side up too, right? But your final comments.
This scaremongering from Senator Murkomen and his ilk, where they keep on telling us that worse things would have happened. I really don't know what is worse than losing 148 lives in just a few hours. To me, that is worse enough.
The West is
that even if there is anything else which would be worse, it would just be comparable to that. So I really don't believe that the government is telling us the truth. A lot needs to be done in security. Stop bragging about what we don't know. Because really, in terms of governance, is what the public knows. We don't know. Those things you are telling us would have happened. What all the good things you are saying our troops are doing in Somalia, we don't know now. And again, as I wind up,
yes.
Prof talked about the war was brought to Nairobi. The war is now in Kismayo. As what we want, the frontier of the war.
Right.
What we want is to protect the Kenyan territory.
Right.
Is not to take war anywhere. We once the territory of this country is secured, to me that is good enough. And it is not our business as a country to be occupying other states. What we would do is, if there is a strategy to help our neighbors stabilize, yes. But if that strategy is not working, we need to admit it is not working. The Americans tried it in Somalia, they failed. We cannot insist that we are succeeding when we are losing lives in this country because of retaliatory attack from Al-Shabaab. Why should we brag that now the frontier of the war is in Kismayo,
while Kenyans
and
are
we are losing
home.
Kenyans in numbers that we didn't even witness before?
Fair enough. Prof, please keep it brief.
Just final comments. If there is one thing that will cause problems to the Jubilee government in 2017, one of them top will be security. If you look at what happened in Nigeria, it should worry Murkomen, Senator Murkomen and others that this is a problem. Things about security, the chaos in education, because we are doing this audit and we have no time to discuss it, but the security stop, the chaos in education, the failure to provide, to make promises that you can meet, such as laptops, the problem of government appointments, as you saw recently, the chief executives who are told to step aside, they tell you a story of who are getting jobs and who are not. So really, the problem, the president and the government of Jubilee has everything full. The plate is full. They should, 2 years down the line now, start rethinking. When people ask us questions in 2017 about these issues, what are we going to say?
Fair enough.
I just want to remind Kenyans that although we don't beat our drums as we ought to do, this government has invested 3,000 police vehicles for 2 years. It has never happened in the last 50 years. This government is changing the security technology. We have been using analog communication system for the police. We are now changing that one. This country has, for the first time, wanted to hire 17,000 policemen in 2 years, were it not for the delay of the courts, which is the 10,000 put in place. So there is a lot of things that we have coordinated attack and command center. And I want to tell Kenyans that as a result of that unfortunate, my county lost about 6 of those kids, and that unfortunate attack in Garissa must now make us make a decision that we cannot remain the same. We must be able to do things different, and we need the support of the judiciary, executive and legislature to ensure that our country is secure. There's nothing, I take the challenge from Prof that one of the things that we must deliver before even the next elections, and it should not be an election issue, it should just be about the welfare of the people of Kenya, is security.
I thank you all for speaking to us. We're taking a short break. I'm back with more after this.